This week we're bringing you big previews from some big collectible card games, both Magic the Gathering and Marvel Dice Masters.
And our topic of the week, tournament play. What games work well with this, and how does that change the way we play them? I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is Roll for Crit.
So if you've been watching our recent podcasts, we've been talking a lot about the Khans of Tarkir set. And finally, they've released the entire spoiler list. This means you can view every card in the set. Now, you may have seen some already from the Speed versus Cunning, which I actually have a copy of the Mythic Rare card that came in that set, which was a little bit of a spoiler for everyone. And what's exciting, though, is we can now see all of them. And from them, I'm really excited because I've seen a lot of cards that share with the work well in the limited format. There's some cards I think that would be that's going to shift standard around a lot, and there's some cards for my favorite format, Commander or EDH, which I love to get my hands on and mess around with.
Yeah, I skimmed through the list of cards. I don't know what any of them mean, but so there's on the website they're separated by color, right? Is each faction is its own color in this set?
Well, each faction well, the way Magic works, there's 5 colors, and each color usually has 2 allies. It's like a little circle, and then opposites for the other 2. Like, the light is good with nature, which is green, and the water, which is blue, and not good against red, which is like chaotic, and black, which is, death and decay. However, in this set, each tribe is like a central color, and it's opposites. So, like, the leader, which I showed, is the color of white, light, red, and black. And then the other ones, this one in particular has to do with more with the raiding, it's the pillaging.
So they mix and match. Yeah. So do you have any idea from looking at it yet, like which one you think you're going to be inclined to play with more?
Well, you can sign up for one of the cons beforehand on the site. I signed up for the one we had the preview for because it's my favorite color, one of my favorite color combinations. But the one in particular I think is going to be really strong, at least in limited, is the red, white, blue, the America colors. Because I think each one has an ability. Like the one I showed you has raid, in which when you play a card, if you play the card and you attack this turn, it does something special. Out of the 5 colors, I feel there's only 2 of them that really have that ability that don't need a lot of their own cards to really trigger the abilities. Like you can sort of mix and match much better, and that would be America, and then black, green, and blue. But the America colors have a lot more cheaper spells, which is what you really want in limited because you're getting 6 random packs. So you're not really building an amazing set, so it's hard to build off more expensive cards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it can shift into the other 2 ones pretty easily. So I think that one's going to probably be one of the more popular ones. Once again, I don't know what promo card they're going to give because that could also change things up.
You mean at tournaments and drafts and things?
At the drafts, usually they'll give a promo card sometimes, especially at the pre-release. And sometimes they let you put in the deck, and that can change everything because that means you already got a huge creature right off the bat, guaranteed. I know the one card that I saw in Limited that I think is going to destroy is actually this small. It costs 1, but it's a 1/2, and it has it can attack right away, and has an ability that pumps it up when you cast non-spells. So I think for a first turn drop, it's devastating for that kind of format. The one thing I really am excited about though with this set is it's a still silly thing, but they included 2 cards of creature types we haven't seen in forever. You're gonna love the names of them. The first one is a Kirin. We haven't seen that since Kamigawa. I mean, the card itself isn't that amazing. Kamigawa. It's almost sort of like a horse spirit dragon. But the other one is called a Lamassu.
Oh, Lamassu. I think I ordered that at a French restaurant. It's
actually a myth from the Middle East, like a mythical creature from there, which I'm really excited to see that. I'm hoping they bring back more of these odd creature types, because it also means that you're pulling from other myths and mythos and stuff, and it's sort of, I think that's where we need to go. That's where we need to take our next step. I mean, we know enough about the dragons, the goblins, the elves, the orcs.
Right, yeah.
We really should. There's so many other countries.
There's an untapped well of mythology there.
The one dangerous thing, because I mentioned Kamigawa before, is what they realize is they can't delve too deep, because then what happens is the people, which is mostly a Western audience, will be like, I have no idea what half these things are.
Yeah, don't you think at this point, if it's Magic, they're not going to care. They'll be like, "Oh, this looks cool."
It's very.
It could go either way. Maybe.
Like that's actually they mentioned. If you read their articles, they talk a lot about the development. With our last set, Theros, which is Greek, one of the things they included a lot of was Krakens. Krakens aren't actually from Greek mythology, but everyone associates them with Greek because the movie Release the Kraken.
Good times.
So that's why Kraken. It's not just what's actually in the mythos, but what people perceive as the mythos.
Right. Huh. They just got to market it right.
Yeah, that's the big thing. But I think this set's gonna be a lot of fun to play with. It's definitely one I think a lot of Magic people are gonna have a lot of fun messing around with. What's also interesting is apparently in the next set, we're actually time traveling in this block. Like apparently
I read that.
Yeah, the Planeswalker is going to go back in time, and there's a lot of people conspiracy saying what's going to happen. Some people believe we're actually going to come back, and the cons are going to actually not be tricolor; they're going to be two color now. Like they're going to drop their one color.
Okay.
So, and other people suggest that the cons are going to completely disappear. I've heard one thing of people thinking they're going to get whole new weird abilities, like it's going to be like a whole weird mix-up. But time travel, this is definitely going to be...
That sounds cool to me.
The one thing I have heard, which I hope is not true, is that this is just going to be like a reboot. Like they're going to redo Magic. They're taking the time travel as a... Which they just sort of did.
Yeah.
Like literally M15, they just changed the artwork of the card, so I'm like, we don't really need a reboot.
Yeah, I guess it would sort of go along with their whole rescheduling plan and all that.
It would, but that's not happening for another year, so it doesn't make sense for it to happen now.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we'll see. We'll see. There's lots to look forward to.
I'm definitely going to be at a pre-release. Going to have some fun there, and hopefully you will too if you enjoy Magic.
I'm sure many people will be. If you are not a Magic the Gathering player, maybe you are one of the few Marvel Dice Masters owners out there. Good news for you as well, because WizKids has been posting on their Twitter and Facebook all week long previews from the upcoming Uncanny X-Men starter set, which is set for release probably sometime later this year, hopefully. And a few of the cards look really interesting and exciting. A couple of notables, Cable, who allows you to do damage based on every time he's blocked. Another, I think Pyro does a similar thing where whenever he's blocked, he gets to do damage to different characters. One of the ones that I thought was really creative and different is Magic, who whenever they do damage, they get to roll a die. You roll one of their dice, and for every time you don't get a mask symbol, you do 1 point of damage directly to your opponent, which is a 50-50 chance of getting a mask symbol. So it's possible you could just finish off your opponent right there if you get enough lucky dice rolls. Also, it seemed like there were a lot of characters that triggered off of villain abilities. So a lot of people who were immune to villains or immune if you didn't have any villains. And a lot more team kind of synergy powers.
Yeah. From the ones I saw, I haven't seen all of them, but it seemed once again first of all, I've seen there's a lot of cards I hate on if you're 2 or less. It should be noted. They definitely are trying to backtrack on getting rid of ruining anyone who tries to use the really small cheap cards. But the one thing I've noticed a lot, and I'm a little disappointed that's only with one, is there is a lot of synergy with villains, which is really weird because that was the one that was the most generic. It's not like the AIM and Hydra. They literally just put all villains. They're all villains.
Maybe it's supposed to be because they recognize it's harder for people to get specific cards in packs, so they wanted to try to make it more accessible if people wanted to have that synergy.
No, well, my issue. No, I like synergy with the villains. My issue is there really isn't other ones that do that. There's no for each X-Men, besides the promo card, one promo card that supports you for having the same symbol. There's not this card does something special for every X-Men you have out or something. There's not a lot more of that, and I think that should be a big thing so far.
It is the Uncanny X-Men set, so there's got to be a couple of those, right?
I'm also looking at the previous set. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing, at least not that I can recall. Seeing.
So it would be nice to see some of that.
I am excited though because remember this is just one step. We already have heard of the Justice League.
That's right. DC, which is Justice coming League. Out in March.
The Dungeons and Dragons, I think Battle at it starts with the F.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons and Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, sounds really fun. If they can make this more generally accessible, I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I will note, however, we have not done any kind of tournament play.
No.
And I know some people have looked at, for example, someone told us how they think Cable's is going to be devastating because he can actually ignore the longbow Hawkeye, which you have shown me is really annoying to play against.
No, when I realized that, I was like, oh yeah, that is a really good ability. No, some of the cards, like almost every one they showed, I read it and thought, that sounds amazing. Like, it sounds like every one of them has really good abilities. So I'm excited to try them out.
You know, I'm always up for new things, and plus collectible, you're always like, oh, I gotta get them all now.
We're always up for new things.
It should be noted that they just released it for the first one. They're also gonna release it for this one. It's like a collectible box. It's like the starter set. It's a bit more expensive, but it comes in a big box where you can collect all your things. I don't know about the Uncanny one. But I know with the X-Men vs. Avengers, it came with a special art version of Storm for one of the Storm cards. So these might be a nice thing. Hopefully, we'll be carrying them very soon. Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Once again, we'll see what WizKids is able to.
And also, if you're a Dice Masters player, check out WizKids put up an updated frequently asked questions page for anyone who's confused about some of the rules in Dice Masters. So.
Which there are plenty that we have.
Yeah, so you might want to check that out as well. But I think that will do it for the Dice Masters.
While Steve Jackson Games may not have any shareholders, he still releases the Report to Stakeholders, which is, I guess, a report to everyone who's interested in what's going on in his game. In this, he's released, he made a gross profit of about $8 million, most of it from, as you can guess, Munchkin, about 7% from his Dice games. But he also releases other information like what's going on, the Kickstarters, what's worked, what's their issues. Like they mentioned a lot of games they want to do, but they don't see a market for it. But the interesting thing is he actually lists the top 40 games which he made profit from, which is definitely interesting. And you can see how your favorite Munchkin lines up apparently by what was sold the most.
In the last year, right?
Yes, this is all in 2013.
Do you remember what the #1 game was? Is it just Munchkin?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is just Munchkin, and I believe #2 was the deluxe version.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't remember the rest after that.
No, but I glanced at it and pretty much all of it's Munchkin.
Yeah. I mean, it's what you expect. Yeah. I mean, I wish my old favorite out-of-print game would come back, but
that would be
Bring back Dino Hunt. However, he did say he was planning to try to print some of the Munchkin games that have been out of print for a while, or he was focusing more on that, because I think he wants to let people, mix everything in together.
Yeah, do you know what any of those are? I don't, because I didn't even know.
I remember, I think it was Munchkin, Foo, and Impossible were the two I remember.
That's right, because those are hard to find.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are more. Yeah. But it's definitely interesting to see him actually release this information for a company to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's cool that they're so open with it. That not a lot of companies, at least as far as I know, put this stuff out there that's widely reported. So it's definitely interesting to see behind the scenes and actually, well, also Steve Jackson Games, they can afford to do it because they are doing really well, so yeah. they look good.
Well, I mean, if you are into making your own board game, starting a board game business, this might be a good thing for you to look at because, I mean, you can see how what they're doing, how they publish it. Maybe you can take some notes from them.
Find out which Munchkin games to rip off to become successful. The best-selling Munchkin games. Days of Wonder recently announced not one, but in fact 4 brand new, some not so brand new, Small World expansions coming your way soon for the game Small World, appropriately. The first 2 are going to be out at Essen this year and then available at retail in November. And those are the Spider's Web and Royal Bonus, which was actually an exclusive Kickstarter reward that will now be made available to everybody. And there's also 2 micro expansions. That's going to be the Necromancer Island and another one just called Leaders. So these are all going to be out by the end of the year, and they've got a bunch of new races for the game. Fawns, Igors, whatever that is, Skags, whatever that is. So I'm sure lots of new fun creatures for the game. We enjoy a Small World now and then, and they have a bunch of great expansions already for the game. So always good to add more races, and they're standard, reasonable price, just like the old ones are. But this could be the final Days of Wonder branded Small World expansion, as far as we know. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Could be a collector's item.
Yeah. I'm sure that's actually happening with a lot of games. To buy the Days of Wonder pre-bought version.
So you better buy them all now while you can.
But we'll see how that happens, how it works out in Essen.
That's right. We'll find out. We'll hear all the news.
All the news.
That we won't be out there to see personally.
And let's not forget, coming this October, from the 11th to the 14th, there's going to be a big tournament for Catan.
Yes. Where is it?
It's in Berlin, Germany. And so if you're interested in that, keep an ear to the ground. Maybe they'll do some more like live recordings of some of maybe the finals at least.
That would be cool.
That'd definitely be interesting because I mean, Catan's one of those games, most of us have always played for a long time. So like hear about tournaments. You know who I think is going to win though? Magellan.
Magellan, that
always
son
Magellan.
of a gun. Yeah, I mean, this is the worldwide. So they got people from countries all over the world apparently. So
do you know whether this is just a plain base game? Do they add certain expansions?
I'm pretty sure it's just Catan. I don't know that for a fact though, but I would think at the tournament level they probably go just for the original hardcore thing. At least that's my guess. But we'll talk more about tournament stuff in our topic of the week.
That's true. But
good
before we get to the top of the week, it's time for our Pickstarter Kickstarter.
My Kickstarter pick this week is one that we actually talked about in our Gen Con preview episode, and then in our Gen Con post episode when we were disappointed we didn't get a chance to see it, and that is Bomb Squad from Tasty Minstrel Games. I did not, in fact, even know that this was planned to be a Kickstarter game.
Oh, lucky you.
So imagine my delight when it popped up on my radar this week, and I got to see it in all its glory, and I got to back it. So, if you weren't aware, Bomb Squad, the idea of the game is that you are a group of friends, cooperative, and you are working to disarm bombs in a building. So, if you're familiar with the game Hanabi, it's a very similar setup to that, wherein everyone has their cards facing away from them, and you have to give each other clues as to what cards you're holding so you know when to play what at the correct time. What makes this one a little bit different is there's actually sort of a board on the field, and there are different tiles that could represent hostages or things like that, and the cards in your hand are bomb diffusing robots, and you need to play the right ones and make sure their battery life doesn't run out so that you can defuse the bombs accurately, and there's a time limit. So you can set the timer. I think standard is 30 minutes. So whatever you do, however long you take on your turn, you could be one step closer to death.
It's an actual timer. It's not like a turn-based timer.
No, it is the full game is one timer. And so unlike Hanabi, where the pressure is running out of those clue tokens, in this one you can give you can give as many clues as you want, I'm pretty sure, but time will run out if you're not quick about it.
It's sort of like a fusion of the mechanics of Hanabi with the mechanics of Space Alert.
Sort of.
Because you don't because you're sort of relying on other people's actions not to screw up. Because like you can have the robot go up, and then maybe someone accidentally put a left. Like no, and he ran to a wall.
Well, that's another thing is in Hanabi, when you play a card, you put it face up, so you know right away if you screwed up or not.
Right.
In this one, you put it face down, so only everyone else knows how you did.
So until you fill it up, like Space Alert, then you flip everything over, and that's when you're like,
True.
Yes, and okay, he's going in the elevator. He's leaving the building.
Yeah, I've heard people say it's also similar to Robo Rally, which we haven't played, but. Yeah, anyway, I love the concept. I'm super excited. It also has a print and play that you can try, so we might give that a try in the near future.
What's the starting backer level to get the base game?
I'm pretty sure it's $30 or $35 for the base game, yeah. But that's Bomb Squad. What's yours?
All right. Mine is actually Yashima. The game is from Greenberg Games, which has also brought you Zombieocalypse and Ninja Dice, which you can actually get in one of the pledge levels. This game looks really cool. It's a miniature board fighting game, which you can do 2v. Play against each other. You can do free-for-all with multiple people or working together. There's a lot of different game modes.
What's the
theme
setup?
The theme is you're all ancient kung fu warriors with all these mystic techniques and stuff. So, and that's what you play with. You play the deck cards, which are your techniques, and they'll show like on a grid pattern that hits everything like to your left maybe, or maybe in a cross shape. The way it works though is that's also your life. So let's say I play this technique, and when I play, it goes underneath my deck. But then if I lose life, I have to discard it and lose those techniques permanently. So you could lose your skills that way. So you have to actually balance out playing things, and maybe like, I don't want to lose my best move or something.
So you definitely have to think about and be careful about your actions.
And it's already funded. It's I think over twice of what they asked for. So they're going a long way. The base game, like yours, is about 35 for the bronze level, and they have different other levels. The miniatures look amazing. They're already saying how they're going to try to get more things and there are more characters and things like that, because they've already twice the funding, so they can do that. The artwork is beautiful, as well as the miniatures.
The artwork is beautiful.
It's not Italian based, so definitely one to check out and take a look at if you like miniatures and you like just the ancient, like I would say Chinese thematics. This is definitely a game to look for.
Aren't there dragons?
Yeah, there's a dragon, there's like tigers, there's a phoenix and turtle. But yeah, it looks really awesome. It looks like a lot of fun. So check it out.
Then I think those are our Kickstarter picks, and then it is going to be time for our topic of the week.
We have always desired for more, and often we find that glory on the battlefield, and that's what tournaments are all about. You may play around with friends, but you want something more. You want a crowning achievement. You want to show everyone that you truly are the best player, and that's why we go to these tournaments, and that's what happens. Some games have been doing it for a while, and usually it's because they work really well with tournaments. Others, not so much. So we're going to look at some of those games, what's good, what's bad, and why, and how this actually changes maybe the way we look at some of these games.
I personally have never found glory on the battlefield.
No, that's because you keep losing.
I go there and I look and I'm like, any glory under here? There's never any.
Now, some of the main games you see that work well with this are going to be the collectible trading card games. Like we mentioned before, Dice Masters and Khans of Tarkir, or Magic the Gathering with Khans of Tarkir.
Of course, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
And what have you.
Because you have to design decks and you build them around to fight in different game formats. In fact, sometimes particular Magic has branched out into different ways. There's Legacy, which use like pretty much all the cards. That means, means it's really expensive. There's Standard, which is whatever's pretty much just came out. There's, like I said, Commander, which really isn't tournament. I think recently in Europe they've done one-on-one tournaments.
It's wacky.
It's that. No, well, there's like called French style. It's a one-on-one. But there's Modern, which is recent. It's when you take, because they changed the art style a while back, and they pretty much say from there on you can use those cards. Which is really great because then there's a lot of different ways to play. Same thing happens with other things.
Yeah, well, I think that with collectible card games especially, they're just so, they really cater to that competitive. There's something about it, especially because it's your own customized deck, that makes you feel like you're really putting yourself out there into the tournament. They really just feel custom made for that kind of play setting.
But we shouldn't ignore other games. Like we've said just earlier, Catan, and I believe you mentioned, I can't remember if it was last one or the way before, the
couple episodes ago,
Ticket to
Ride tournament.
When we were at Gen Con, there were a lot. In fact, the biggest prize pool, I think it was $10,000 for Legendary.
Yeah, and of course they had Resistance and Coup.
Yeah.
They had, I mean, tournaments for any game pretty much.
So what do you find as the pros for most tournaments for all these things?
I mean, it's a great, if people are into that, it's totally, it's a great way to get people together. And to, what's the word I'm looking for? To nurture, to spread the love of the game.
To foster a competitive scene.
Yeah, definitely.
I like, though, how you started that off with, if you're into that.
Right.
Which I think brings us to sort of a con.
Yeah, not of Tarkir, just a regular con.
For a lot of people, they can, because of these prize pools are so huge now, they can get really competitive into this. And it almost, at least for us, I feel like it takes away sometimes some of the fun. Because then these are where rule lawyers thrive.
Right.
This is where you're going to get the people who are going to be so meticulous with every rule.
And especially in tournaments where oftentimes even they'll have to change things from the base rules, especially in clickable card games, where they'll have to say you can no longer use this or do that, and this isn't allowed, and you strictly need to use this method to do whatever it is you're doing.
I think a big issue that's come up is the fact that we all have smartphones, we all have the internet, at our fingertips within, like that. Before, in Magic the Gathering, for example, when a new set came out, it took a while before people really found that optimized deck. Now it takes like a week and then everyone's using it. That's actually why we talked about a while back that they're changing the setup. They don't like the fact that people are able to make standard decks to find out the best 2 decks, and then everyone's using that. Because where's the fun in seeing 2 people use everyone in the room have the exact same deck?
Yeah.
Varied like 1 or 2 cards.
Right. Yeah.
Another big issue which happens when, especially competitive collectibles, is when the pricing of singles. For example, if you've played Magic for a while, you've probably heard of the Planeswalker Jace Berlin. That's because one of his cards, the Mind Sculptor, was a 4-costing Planeswalker, which was amazing. As in, this card, usually you don't see cards get too high when new sets come out. Usually the old ones are expensive. He hit around 100 when he was around, because every single deck that was competitive used 4 copies of him. I actually beat one with a simple vampire deck when I was still playing Standard, which just made me feel very, it's really exciting to beat a deck that someone put $400 into.
Priceless.
But that actually got banned, and that's a very, very dangerous issue with collectible card games and tournaments, because you have to walk this fine line of making cards, which might overthrow the game, and then if everyone uses that one card, it takes away a lot of the fun, which someone will always find that way. This happens in everything tournament, though.
Yeah,
it's not what you can avoid. For example, like the Pokemon games. It's a video game, it's fun, but there are people who will spend hours upon hours breeding their guide to get the exact hidden data values.
And eventually everyone figures out, oh, these Pokemon are the best. And, or even fighting games, too, is a huge one, where, this character, they have a tier list, and everyone knows who the best character is.
And that's where video games are able to beat, certain video games, I should say, are able to beat this. For example, Smash Brothers can. For example, like people found out it was really like Meta Knight and Snake in the last one. But like, for example, League of Legends updates all the time. So when they see one character getting too strong, they're like, yeah, he's losing that, not as strong. So they can change that. Cards, it's a little harder.
I guess the form of patches for board games is errata. Right. You got to go on the website and find out what they did wrong.
Rarely they do that with collectible card games. They won't errata. And we've already seen them. What they usually have to do is the next set has to backtrack and sort of ruin, like try to destroy as much as the other one. We've seen that in Dice Masters in particular. Like we've been mentioning, the new set really punishes anyone who uses the 2-costing cards. Yeah. Because as we've seen, the 2 and 3s are the ones that sort of dominate.
It's it's a counterbalancing thing. They have to it evolves over time. Which in that case, I think that's okay. Like I think that's not a problem necessarily because they found the fix for it without having to ban anything.
It's also just came out, so it's going to be harder for Dice Masters compared to like Magic the Gathering.
They don't know as much yet.
I say one of my favorite ideas though for a tournament is we've mentioned it before, but Doomtown. What they're doing, they're actually giving out badges depending on certain tournaments. Like it doesn't affect your game. But you get a little deputy badge, and people are actually already talking about going up and challenging each other deputy badge, sort of like anteing their badge against each other. And I just imagine one day we're going to see one guy like just all these badges around, is like just walking around like I am the king of Doomtown.
Well, didn't Pokemon do the same thing, or do they still do that? Don't you get gym badges for?
I didn't know if I think you got to move on. I don't know if they had the winner got a gym badge, so I don't know how rare they were. Right.
Probably not.
I never played the actual Pokemon card game in tournaments. I remember as a kid I did one with the Red and Blue video game, which was hilarious because I ended up in a battle of Mewtwo's who just kept hitting each other with Swift and recovering. So it was like the most boring thing ever.
That can be a risk as well. We should find the next Dice Masters tournament and enter it.
Well, the big issue with that is
having the right cards.
Well, no, not on the right cards. It's just
having enough cards.
Enough cards. That's another thing. If you gotta go to tournaments, usually you need to bring your own thing. That's what drafts are really nice. Another form multiple games have, because then you just pay a certain amount, you get certain packs, and you make your deck there. But Dice Masters is really hard to come around. So maybe in the future, yes, that'd be great. But
yeah, I do think I don't know. To me, it does seem like with certain games like even Catan and Ticket to Ride, they don't really feel like they're built for a tournament. I mean, if you're one of those people who plays it and is into it, that's awesome. But It doesn't feel as natural to me.
Well, that's because when you and I play games, we're usually playing like, okay, we're going to play Catan. That's it. For a lot of people, it's like chess. You know, these people are going like you're saying that, but this you'd say chess is something that people.
Yeah, well, it's like the head-to-head. I don't know. Yeah,
it's just Catan can't offer that. Ticket to Ride can't offer that. It's just you don't think of it as much because when we think about a lot of these games, we think about we're just going to play this game.
Right.
One of us is going to win and laugh, and the other one's going to say, "I will beat you next time," and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the moral of the story is play how you want to play.
Yeah. But I just say if you're playing the tournaments, enjoy the fun. Don't forget this is a game. Have fun. Don't let the fact. I mean, yes, some people do this for a living, but you know, remember these are games. Don't forget why we got into these in the first place.
Right. If next time you're at your diplomacy tournament, just take a breather. Take a breather.
Oh, we didn't even touch on that one about.
Well, we've talked about that before. Yeah,
but
it can get intense.
Yeah, that's definitely take a step back. If you ever feel like you need to flip a table for a game, you may need to think about, unless the game tells you to. That's a different story.
Right. That would be a totally acceptable thing you could do.
They should make a game when you do that.
They should. Anyway, if you have ever been in a tournament, maybe you have your own personal experiences you could share with us, or something like that.
Maybe you think we're complete idiots for talking about tournaments
Maybe you think we're complete idiots.
Maybe you think games should just be about tournaments and it's all about winning. Let us know.
Let us know. How can they let us know?
Well, they can get our email first. You can respond to us at rollforcrit@gmail.com.
That's true. Or if you don't want to type that much, you can talk to us on Twitter. Our Twitter account is @rollforcrit. You can also check out our own personal Twitters. Mine is @Quentz.
Mine is @Dorokiryu.
And behind the camera is @Ivan R. Hahn.
And of course, our art director, Foamy89.
That's right, @Foamy89.
Of course, if you have anything else, maybe a news story we didn't cover, or maybe something else you want to talk about, feel free to mention that. We should also mention we now have a Vine and Instagram.
That's right. Check that out. And of course, we're always on Facebook, facebook.com/rollforcrit. So you can check all that stuff out and subscribe to us on YouTube, like us. We would appreciate that.
And let's not forget, a lot of the games we mentioned we're selling or we're about to sell. So you should always check out our store for what's new and what's coming up.
Absolutely. That you can find at rollforcrit.com. I think it's a great website.
It is, because that's also all our news too. So
oh, yeah.
There's plenty of more news stories that are there.
The best. I think that's it.
It is. So
thank you for watching the show this week. My name is Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this has been a Roll for Crit podcast.